my fight fans. So there's a big boxing fight coming up. You guys all know full well what's happening. We got Anthony Joshua versus I can't say his name, but his name is Usyk. I can pronounce. Forgive me. Cannot pronounce his first name. Don't want to demolish it. So we got Joshua and Usyk part two. We know what happened in that first one. Usyk literally danced around Anthony the entire time, picked him apart easily. It was such a clear victory for Usyk. And with this part two fight, it's definitely interesting. Not because of the fight and to see how Anthony Joshua does, but because what the winner could potentially get. We have Tyson Fury, who is already talking about coming back. I mean, let's all face it, he never really retired. He was just talking about retiring. I strongly felt like he wasn't going to retire. I think he just had too much entertainment inside of him. Even if he did mean it for like a day, okay, maybe he just needed that small break to get away from everything, but the guy's just an entertainer. The guy's on fire. The guy sees all these other fights that he could be having, all this more money he could be making, and he was just going to come back. It was inevitable. So we have him talking about coming back, putting the heavyweights on notice, and saying things like he wants to fight Anthony Joshua. He even mentioned about fighting him for free. Now, of course, I feel like those are just words. I feel like he's just, saying things to do whatever he can to get the eyes on him, to get that kind of attention that he needs. Which is honestly, he really didn't need much. He really don't need to do much. The guy's straight up, everything he says is pretty much gold. Tyson Fury is literally, in some ways, the all-star of boxing. He's definitely, anytime he boxes, he's always going to be all-seen. Aside from Canelo, he's definitely the big star of boxing. And I was watching this interview that Eddie Hearn was even talking about. He is the promoter of Anthony Joshua. And he's even mentioned that if and when, his words, that Anthony Joshua wins, he wants to fight Tyson Fury in December. Now, we both know these guys had the potential of locking up quite some time. Very number of times, I believe. And it always came down to money, I believe. It always came down to just some little details that we know boxing is, whether it's the weight gloves, whether it's the location, who comes out first, who comes out to this, it's so nonsense that us boxing fans lose out on great fights because of the littlest things, the very littlest things. And if Anthony Joshua does pull off this victory, I would really, 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 really hope that they do make this fight this time, because boxing definitely needs it. Good God, have we been wanting to see? We've been wanting to see way before Anthony Joshua lost that first fight to Andy Ruiz. We know that kind of got derailed when he did get knocked out by Andy Ruiz. It felt like we were never going to see this fight. Then the potential of it happening again, and then he lost to Usyk that first time. So, and that's what happens, because both these guys were on fire. You got Anthony Joshua looking amazing, that great, crazy fight of the year, almost fight of the century that he had with Klitschko, with Vladimir Klitschko. I mean, it was amazing. And then you got Tyson Fury going against Deontay Wilder, doing his thing with him. It was just, and both guys were undefeated. These guys were literally headed towards each other to a big, by far, the biggest boxing fight I can even possibly think of. I can't even think of a bigger matchup in boxing right now than those two guys matching up with each other, especially at that time. But the weight that happens, we see things like this, the things that Anthony Joshua have gone through, like losing to Andy Ruiz. Nonetheless, he did revenge that, but still. And then losing to Usyk, which he has a chance to also revenge. And this is the things that happen when we wait. We've seen it with Mayweather and Pacquiao. When Mayweather and Pacquiao were going back and forth trying to make this fight, Pacquiao got a controversial decision, big time, against Timothy Bradley, and then gets knocked out by Marquez. So we end up waiting even longer. And that's the problem with waiting for that right moment. If the right moment is now. He's undefeated. We're kind of seeing it with Ryan Garcia and Tank Davis. We're kind of seeing it with Errol Spence and Terrence Crawford. Let's not wait for these guys to one of them lose. You got both great fighters, both on the top of their game, both the best in their division. Let's smash them together. Now let's hope and pray no disrespect to Usyk, because I still would love to see. I would love to see Usyk and Tyson Fury as well. That sounds like a very interesting fight. Given both techniques and both styles, very interesting. But the monsters, the biggest boxing fight I can even think of is just Anthony Joshua versus Tyson Fury. So that's why this Joshua Usyk 2 is very interesting. Coming August 20th. Very interesting. And I am so looking forward to it, because not because I want to see what can happen in that fight. I want to see what happens in the end. I want to see if we can see Tyson Fury there, calling out the winner, potentially it being his old foe, the guy that he's been trying to get. Both of them been looking at each other from across the yard, wanting each other for so very long, and little things constantly get in the way. Are we really going to finally get this fight? Are we really finally going to have these two in the ring, touching gloves, and now here we are. There were talks about this being possibly at the end of the year as well. So you got a potential matchup. Like, this is the year almost undefeated, with Gervonta Davis versus Ryan Garcia, with Terrence Crawford versus Errol Spence, with Anthony Joshua potentially winning this fight against Usyk, against Tyson Fury. Guys, boxing couldn't be better. Boxing could not be better. This is going to be a very, very exciting end of the year if these fights all get made. You promoters out there, the ones that are promoting these fights, make these fights, because I'm telling you, boxing is dying. It's not dead, but it is slowly dying because of the nonstop little this and that of reasons why we are not making these fights. Whether it's you fighters who are just way too nitty, who are just way too picky about what it is that you need in order to step in the ring with that guy, or whether it's you promoters who are constantly just doing your best to negotiate to where you're literally getting the absolute most money. Everybody's going to be rich. Everybody's going to make money. Everybody's going to walk out here millionaires, and these are potential fights that could be a part 1, a part 2, and a part 3, possibly even a part 4. And there's even more money and more money and more money going to come. Everybody's going to be rich. What do you guys going to think is going to happen? Do you think Anthony Joshua is going to win against Usyk? Do you think this fight can potentially finally be made? Him and Fury? Let me know in the comments. Like, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.